My wife texted. By the way, I'm moving on with Max, my ex. You're good, but not enough for my status. I told her congrats and walked away. Months later, Max's wife divorced him. He dumped her, and she showed up at my door crying for help. I'm 34, and until a few months ago, I thought I had a pretty stable marriage. We had our share of disagreements like any couple, but nothing that made me question the foundation we'd built. Or at least, that's what I believed. One ordinary Tuesday afternoon, I was at home, doing something as unremarkable as folding laundry, when my phone buzzed. I glanced at the screen and saw my wife's name. At first, I assumed it was about groceries or dinner plans. Instead, the message was short, blunt, and completely out of the blue. By the way, I'm moving on with Max, my ex. I read it twice, thinking maybe I'd misunderstood. But before I could even start to process it, another message came through. You're good, but not enough for my status. I want more enjoyment in my life. It wasn't just the words that stung, it was the casual way she dropped them, like she was talking about changing brands of shampoo. No attempt to soften the blow. Just a declaration that she was done, and that her new chapter involved a man she'd already been with before. I didn't even know where to start. Questions piled up in my head. Why now? Had this been going on behind my back for months? Did everyone else know but me? And then the kicker, Max. I knew who he was. We'd run into each other once, back when my wife and I were dating. He was polite enough on the surface, but something about him always felt rehearsed, like every word he said was calculated. My wife had mentioned him a few times over the years, but always as part of the past, nothing to be concerned about. So, in the middle of my confusion, I typed the obvious question. Max, the one who's married. Her response was immediate. Yeah, his wife doesn't know about us yet. I'm just letting you know so you can move on too. She wrote that like it was some kind of favor, like she was saving me time by being honest. Meanwhile, she was admitting she'd been involved with a married man who was keeping his own spouse in the dark. I sat there with my phone in my hand, staring at her messages. There was no apology, no sign of guilt, just a sense of entitlement, as if she was upgrading her life and informing me after the decision had already been made. And strangely enough, I didn't explode. I didn't shout or send a paragraph of angry words. I just stopped caring in that moment. Something in me switched off. I put the phone down and thought about all the years we'd spent together, the late nights, the shared dreams, the times I thought we were building something lasting. And I realized none of that mattered to her if she could throw it away so easily. The irony was hard to miss. She claimed I wasn't enough for her status, yet she was stepping into a relationship with a man who was already betraying his own wife. I didn't respond right away. I let the phone sit on the table for a while as I finished folding the laundry. When I finally picked it up again, I wasn't any less hurt, but I was calmer, and I knew my response wouldn't be emotional. It would be simple. But that's part of the next chapter of this story. When I finally picked up the phone again, I typed just one word. Congrats. No punctuation beyond that. No sarcasm. Just the kind of message that leaves the other person wondering what you're thinking, if you're even thinking about them at all. She didn't reply. Maybe she expected me to fight for her, to demand answers, to beg her to reconsider. That wasn't going to happen. She'd made her choice. I wasn't going to waste my energy trying to convince someone to stay when they'd already decided to leave. After that day, I stopped engaging. I didn't check her social media. I didn't ask mutual friends about her. I put my focus on my own life, getting back into the gym, spending more time with family, and even picking up hobbies I'd put off for years. From what little I did here, she wasted no time flaunting her new relationship. Photos of them together at restaurants, smiling at events, even a weekend trip, all posted like a highlight reel. To anyone who didn't know the context, it might have looked like a whirlwind romance. But there was a detail she left out of the captions: Max's wife. I didn't know her personally, but I knew enough to feel uneasy about the situation. The thought that she was living her life, unaware that her husband was parading around with another woman, made me uncomfortable. But it wasn't my business, and I wasn't about to insert myself into their mess. Then, about 3 months later, word got around, and it hit fast. Somehow, Max's wife had found out about the affair. And she didn't just confront him, she went straight to a lawyer. The divorce papers were served almost immediately. From what I heard, she wasn't just asking to end the marriage. She was demanding half of his property, investments, and everything else she was entitled to. And given how long they'd been together, that was a substantial amount. The irony was almost poetic. The man my wife thought was an upgrade suddenly had to face the reality of what he'd risked. It wasn't just about losing his marriage. It was about losing a huge portion of his wealth and reputation. I never spoke to Max, but I didn't need to. The changes in my wife's online activity told me everything. The happy couple photos stopped. The captions about new beginnings vanished. And for the first time, There were no updates about where they were going or what they were doing. That's when I realized something important. I didn't need revenge. I didn't have to say a word or lift a finger. Karma had stepped in on its own, and it was doing a far better job than I ever could. The tables were starting to turn, and it was only the beginning. It didn't take long after the divorce news for the next shift to happen. One afternoon, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost let it go to voicemail, but curiosity got the better of me. The voice on the other end was familiar, but it wasn't the confident, dismissive tone I'd heard in her texts months ago. This time, she sounded frantic. "It's me," she said quickly, as if we were still on speaking terms. I'm in trouble." I didn't say anything at first. I just waited. "Max, he's gone," she continued. "He said this isn't worth it anymore. He just left." I could almost picture the scene in my head. The same man she left me for, the one she called an upgrade, had decided the relationship wasn't worth the fallout from his divorce. All that talk about wanting more enjoyment had led her right into a dead end. "I thought you should know," she added, as if it was some kind of important announcement. "I don't see why I need to know," I finally said. She paused, probably not expecting that. "Because I need help. I'm in a bad place right now." He changed his mind out of nowhere. One day we were fine, and then he's just gone. He's not even answering my calls. His wife knows everything now. Maybe you told her? Did you? That last part almost made me laugh. "No," I said flatly. "I didn't tell anyone, and I don't care about whatever happened between you and them." She started, but I cut her off. "I have work to do. I'm not getting dragged into this. Goodbye." And I hung up. It wasn't anger that made me end the call. It was clarity. She had burned the bridge when she walked away, and nothing she said now could rebuild it. 2 hours later, there was a knock at my door. For a moment, I thought maybe it was a delivery, but when I opened it, she was standing there. Her hair was messy, her makeup smudged, eyes red like she'd been crying for hours. She looked nothing like the woman who had walked out of my life so confidently months ago. And that's where the next part of this story begins. She stood on my porch like she didn't know where else to go. For a second, I almost didn't recognize her, not because of her appearance, but because the confidence she used to carry had vanished. "Please," she started, her voice cracking. "Don't leave me like this. I don't have anyone else right now." I didn't move from the doorway. "You left me a long time ago," I said. "Remember? I wasn't good enough for your status. I was boring. You wanted more enjoyment." She wiped her face quickly. "I didn't mean any of that. I don't know. I was being stupid. It was a joke, a bad one. I really do love you." I shook my head. "No, it wasn't a joke. People don't throw away their marriage over a joke. You made your choice, and you did it without hesitation. I didn't fight you then, and I'm not going to start now." She stepped closer. "I was wrong. I thought I knew what I wanted, but Max, he wasn't what I thought. He made promises, and I cut her off. "It doesn't matter. This isn't about Max. This is about you. You thought the grass was greener, and now that it's dead, you're knocking on my door like nothing happened." Her eyes filled again. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I don't want your apology," I said plainly. "I want you to remember the moment you sent that text. The moment you told me I wasn't enough for you. That was the truth, at least your truth back then. And it's not something I can forget." She looked down, her shoulders sinking. "So that's it. You're just going to let me walk away?" I almost laughed at the irony. "You didn't need my permission to walk away the first time. Why would you need it now?" She didn't answer. I stepped back slightly, making it clear the conversation was over. "Leave my house," I said quietly. "We're done." For a moment, she just stood there like she was hoping I'd change my mind. But I didn't. Eventually, she turned and walked down the steps without looking back. When I closed the door, there was no feeling of victory, no rush of satisfaction. Just a quiet certainty that I'd done the right thing. She had lost Max, the so-called better life she thought she was getting, and any chance of regaining my respect. All in one fell swoop. I didn't need revenge. She'd handled that herself. And that was the real end.